All right, good evening. Welcome to Daf Yomi. We are sponsored this week by Yishai and Rebecca Schwartz, Lilu Nishmas, Rebecca's grandfather, Mr. Eli Yanku, Eliyahu ben Yaakov Harifka, whose yahrzeit was on the 21st of Shvat. May his neshama have an elite. It's almost like I feel like deja vu. That was like, I feel like I've been there before, right? And today's Daf is sponsored by Mr. Jeffrey and Chava Bela Wald. Lilu Nishmas, Jeff's maternal grandmother, Mrs. Leah Eisner, Leah Bas Yisrael Levi, whose yurtzeit is today, not tomorrow. It's today, right?
Tomorrow.
Okay, good. Today, tomorrow. The 25th of Shvat, Meir Neshama have an aliyah. And and our learning should be b'schuyas. And all right, good. Ready to go? Amen. We are in Chavtes Amud Beis. We're discussing Safras, writing our letters and how we write our letters. And we talked about that we put a roof on the ches. And we made it, Rashi has just a little bit of a neck on the end of the ches, a little line up at the end. Tosfos puts on a whole little arrow on the top, right? And we are, from where it gets, from the wide lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines in the skinny lines, up 6 lines up from where it gets wide. So trying to figure count up, count down, but wide, from where it gets wide, it's 6 lines up from there. Chatri lehu legage deches. So we said that we make this sticking up top of the ches is because klomar. Why is it? It's as if to say chayhu, that Hashem lives berumo she'olam, at the heights of the world, and I think it's because of the ches, right? That's the point of chayhu. He lives, because I'm not sure where Hakadosh Baruch Hu ties into the ches, but from chayhu, that Hashem lives in the lofty places of the world. Does he say anything about that here? I did not see. He says, "Dahainu haos ches romezes laKadosh Baruch Hu shehu chai." The letter ches reminds us of Hashem, because Hashem is the living person, the living one, the chai, not the living person. Right? That's what that means. Okay, so it reminds us of Hashem is above us. Tolule likarei dehei. They hung the letter hey has a dangling side to it, right? It's not connected. Why do they do that? Why don't we connect it? Kideboy mine Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya mi Rabbi Ami. It's like what Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi said to Rabbi Ami. My dichsiv, why does the pasuk say bitchu b'Hashem adayad? You should trust in Hashem for all. Ki b'ko Hashem tzur olamim, because Hashem is the rock of eternity. Or all the worlds, either way. Amar lei, so Rabbi Ami said, what is this? Kol hatola bitchunu b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anybody who places his trust in Hashem, harei lo machzeh ba'olam hazeh u'la'olam haba. So it's as though Hashem is going to protect him or cover for him, right? Machzeh, is that what the word is? Machzeh is protect him in the olam is in this world and in the world to come. So that's what that word means. Bitch Hashem adayad, ki Hashem is going to be the tzur, he's the rock in all of the worlds. So we trust in Hashem. Amar lei, so which Rabbi Yehuda said to Rabbi Ami, that's not what my question was. Obviously, that's what the meaning of that pasuk is. Anahachi kakashli. This, my question was, Maishna dichsiv beka v'lo ksiv ka. Why does it say that you're supposed to keep B'ka Hashem, because with the Yud K of Hashem, he is the protector, the protector in the world, he's the rock of the worlds. Why does it just say Ka? Why does it say B'ka? So he says, because, so he says, I'll answer that one. He says, Kidadarsh Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Eloi, like Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Eloi. That is always the Rabbi Yehuda. Whenever we say Rabbi Yehuda, Stam, we don't say Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. The Rabbi Yehuda is always Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi. We just happen to mention, because it's a different person, right? Rabbi Yehuda is Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and then Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi, Rabbi Eloi is a different Rabbi Yehuda. When we just mention, when we say Rabbi Yehuda says this, that's Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi. Right? Rabbi Yehuda is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rabbi Yehuda is always Rabbi Yehuda Eloi, but we mentioned his whole name this time. Elu shnei olamos shabar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Yud and the Hey are the representative of the two worlds that Hashem has created. Echad Hey ve'echad Yud. One of the worlds is represented by the Hey, and one of the worlds is represented by the Yud. Okay, what does that mean? I'm not sure if Olam Haba is the Yud and this world is the Hey. And I don't know whether, or it's the other way around, that Olam Hazeh is the Yud and Olam Haba is the Hey. Keshu Omer, then the pasuk says in Bereshis, Eila toldos hashamayim v'ha'aretz behi bar'am. This is the generations, or the offspring or the lineage, what?
Products.
The products, good. The products of the heaven and the earth at Behi Baram, as they were created. Al Tikri Behi Baram, don't read it that way, Behi Baram, Ela Behei Baram. Hashem created them, this world, with a hay. So we see that this world is the hay. So therefore, Havi Omer, I will say, Holam Hazeh Behei, this world is the hay, and Olam Haba B'Yud, and Olam Haba is with the Yud. Okay, you got it? Because Hashem, the word Yud K of Hashem's name is this world and next world and this world. So why is that? Why is it that this world is created with a hay? Because Shedome Lach Sadra. It looks like a room which has a big opening on the other end of it, right? You have like a hall, a big imagine a hall, a feast hall with one side open. That's what it looks like.
Hall, right?
A hall.
It starts with an H with the hay.
It does. Huh? Well, it doesn't start with an H, but who's counting? Shekol harotze latzeis yetze. Anybody who wants to can leave, right? You don't want to do what you have as free choice. You don't want to follow the rules of this world? Go ahead. Hashem says, go ahead. Big opening, you can leave. Umay taimatalia kar'e. So then why is the leg not attached? So the answer is, Ihadar b'shuva ma'ili lei. It's because if you want to do tshuva, there's an opening. You can come back, right? So, fine. Why doesn't he come back the way he went? He went out. Big opening on the bottom. Be shaped like a ches and you'd be fine. Big opening on the bottom. Why? Lo mistaya milsa. That you can't do because you can't come back the way that you came in. Why? Because the way the Yetzer Hara leads you, you can't go back in that derech anymore. That way is not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to go back. The Yetzer Hara, he owns that path. So therefore, you've got to be able to take the side routes in order to be able to get back in. That's the trick to beating the Yetzer Hara, right? If you go through your regular routines and your regular things and you keep doing the wrong things, figure out a different routine.
Take the city route.
Take the side route. That's right, and that's the way that you're going to be able to be choser b'tshuva, get back in. So that's the message, right? As they say that the chametz and matzah have the same letters except for the hay and the ches. Right? Otherwise, it's the same mem and tzadi they have, and the hay has a dangling letter that's not attached. The ches is just attached. The only difference between chametz and matzah is just that little connecting piece, right? And that is chametz and matzah is symbolic of allowing things to take too long, and anything machmetzes, don't let that if a mitzvah bali yodo al tachmitzena, don't let it go to waste, right? Don't let it leaven or rise. Don't delay on it. That extra action. So the hay is a letter of tshuva, the hay is a letter of action, and so that's what you got to do. Ke de Reish Lakish, like Reish Lakish says, Dama Reish Lakish, Reish Lakish says, Dichsiv, Pasuk says, Im laletzim hu yalitz, la'novim yitain chen. To the scoffers, he will allow them to scoff. Hashem permits people to do what they want to do. You want to be a scoffer, you will be a scoffer. And to those that are humble, he will give chen, he will show grace. That if you come and you want to cleanse yourself, Hashem will help you. But if you want to do tumah, you want to do the wrong thing, the door's open. And that's interesting change in language, right? Hashem will help you if you want to do the right thing. If you want to do the wrong thing, Hashem doesn't help you. He just lets you, right? You're allowed to. But if you want to do the right thing, Hashem will actually go out of his way and help you. But okay, so that's what the letter hay is for. My taima islay taga. So why is there a little line on the top of the hay? Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, Im chozer bo, if you do tshuva, ani kosher lo keser, I'm going to put a crown on your head, right? Mipnei ma nivra ha'om haba os yud, so let's get b'yud. Why the yud? Why yud is olam haba? Mipnei shet tzadikim shebo mu'atim. And this is two explanations for that, because the tzadikim, there's a small number of tzadikim. Unfortunately, not everybody, now he said, so I'm thinking either it's the number of Jews relative to the number of people is a small number, or that everybody doesn't. Not everybody makes it all the way, right? You get there, but like who gets their full reward?
When we were in Egypt, right? There's certain Jews. But those Jews who became Egyptians, how would you do with those ones?
That's a question. I don't know if you can convert out, right? Yeah. So if you say people who didn't follow and died, whether we had talked in Masechah Sanhedrin about who's out. They're not mentioned as out, so we would presume they're in. So now The other way to look at it is the people who are the tzaddikim, they view themselves, they're humble, they view themselves as being small. They are muatim. I like that answer because you'll see the next line seems to imply that when we're talking about who the tzaddik, what the yud is like, it's indicative of the characteristic of the tzaddik. So if the yud is small because the tzaddikim themselves, they are humble. They stay small. Why is the head of the yud bent? Right, it has this. Right, it has the little bendy shape to it. Because the tzaddikim, they bend their heads. Because they don't hold up to each other. Tzaddik is going to get there, and he's going to see, oh, that tzaddik was better than I was. I could have been better, and I feel a little bit bad about it. Right? You could learn it.
Jealousy? Wouldn't that be jealousy?
That would exactly be jealousy. But it's not jealousy as much as it is being embarrassment. Right? Amar of Yosef. So Rav Yosef says, "Hani tarti mili, Amar Rav bisfarim, v'tanya tiyuvtei." He says there are two halachos that Rav Yosef said that about Sifrei Torah, and we learned brises against him. So we're gonna say the two halachos that Rav Yosef says, but we don't hold like him. Chad, the first halacha that he says. Had Amar Rav. Rav says Sefer Torah sheyesh bo shtei toyos bechol daf v'daf yesukan. If you have a Sefer Torah and it has two mistakes in every column, so then you can fix that Sefer Torah. It doesn't matter. Have lots of mistakes. Fix that Sefer Torah. Shalosh, if it has three mistakes in every column, so then yigones. Then don't fix that Sefer Torah. Too many mistakes.
Just if it has mistakes, then wouldn't it be puzzle?
Yes, it's puzzle until you fix it, right? But we're telling you, you get to two in every column, then you can fix it. But once you get to three in every column, it's too far gone. Then you should put it in Geniza. V'tanya tiyuftei. But here's the refutation. The refutation is shalosh yasukan, that if you have three mistakes, then you should fix it. Arba yigones, and four you do not. Now, what's the Rav consistently has an opinion throughout Shas about what makes a chazaka, what makes something considered to be
3 times.
Right. So usually something happens 3 times. That's what we hold, right? Something happens 3 times. So Rav says twice. Right? Rav says 2 times. So therefore he says if there's 2 mistakes, then it's okay. 3 mistakes is a problem already, right? But then we say 3 mistakes is not a problem. 4 mistakes is already too much. It's beyond already. So we had this, what did we just have that recently with 2? Rav had held something was 2 and we said 3. I cannot remember. No, we just had it, like, I want to say it was just within the last couple of days. We had another situation. It was also Rav said something was 2 and not 3. Okay, maybe I'm thinking about something. Definitely upcoming.
I remember it also.
Yeah?
Right? We said that before. Maybe it's a long time ago. Okay, so maybe I'm having like all the learning is shuffling in my head. Tana, so we learned in Yeshbo Daf Achas Shlema Matzelas Akula. We learned in a brisa that if you have one healthy daf, right, one column that is okay, so then you can save it, right? It doesn't matter how many mistakes you have elsewhere in the Torah. If you've got one acceptable column, then you're okay. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta mishmei Rav. So Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta said in the name of Rav, Vehu tichsiv rupe besifra shapir. So and he says that is only if most of the Sefer Torah is written fine, right? But if it has more, meaning that if you have in the other ones more than like a lot of mistakes, Rashi's like 5, 6, 7 mistakes. You've got a lot of mistakes in the rest of it, so then it is too far gone, right? So if the rest of it is okay, most of the other rest of the columns are okay, then you can fix that. Amar Leah Bail Rav Yosef. So Rabbi says Rav Yosef, Is behahu daf shalosh ta'uyos mai. What if the one good daf has 3 mistakes on it? All the rest of the dafim have 4 mistakes, 5 mistakes. They don't have 6 or 7. They're not that bad.
Or the Maggid Shiur.
Sorry?
Or the Maggid Shiur.
Or the Maggid Shiur what?
Because the class can make mistakes as well.
Yes, he could, right? If he's got 3 mistakes, if the daf has 3 mistakes on it, if the column has 3 mistakes on it, what happens there? Amar Le, he says, Huel v'is yahiv li'itakune mitakein. He says, well, since it's 3, we said you can fix it. Fix that daf, fix that column, and then the column is perfect. Once that column is perfect, then the rest saves the rest of the Sefer Torah. You can fix everything else. So basically, you need to have at least 4 mistakes on every column in order to say this Sefer Torah is ready to go. The honey mili chaseros. Right now, this whole thing is if you're missing letters. The problem with your Sefer Torah is you're missing letters. Because how are you going to fix a Sefer Torah that's missing letters? You're going to squeeze the letters in. Right. Put them into put them between the, up a little bit above the word or whatever. You squeeze them in.
Is that what happens when some of the Bakars read from the Torah and they see something wrong with the letter?
That little bit cracked, that's going to be much less of a problem, right? This is if you actually had letters missing. The Sofer left letters out. Now, think about what that means. Like, you're having, they left out letters, 3 or 4 letters every single column, right? That's what we're talking about. Yeseros, but if you've got extra letters, we have no problem. Fix it. Why? My time chaseros, my time low. Why can't you fix it if you're missing letters? Amar Rav Kahana says, Mishum de michse kimenumar. It looks like you've got a leopard Torah. What does that mean? That means you've got letters sticking in all the little side spots, sticking all the letters. It looks messy, right? And so therefore, that's not going to look. You could have a couple letters per column, but once you've got letters sticking out all over the place, then that's not a. But if you've got too many letters, somebody puts, let's say, an extra yud or something, you can just scratch the letter out and it goes away and the letters, the Sefer Torah can look perfectly neat. That's why if you've got, so the ink dries on top of the parchment. It actually can be scratched off.
Even nowadays?
Yes, yeah, that's how you repair it. So if you've got a letter that's bad, that's not why, because we said that we learn in other Masechtos that if you touch the Sefer Torah, you get buried without the mitzvos, right? Without mitzvahs, as it says, which means not all the mitzvahs, but you don't get credit for that mitzvah.
Which mitzvah was this one in?
I don't remember. I want to say that we talk about Kriyas Torah again in Maseches Megillah, so I want to say it could be that one, but I don't recall exactly. So, therefore, if we've got cracked letters, right? You've got cracked letters. So then you can just scrape the letter and fix it, right? It's not a problem. You can put some extra ink on. That's not a problem. Which, by the way, is different than mezuzah and tefillin. Mezuzah, it says, remember we said that uchsav tam, you have to write it with a perfect writing. You can't write the letters out of order in a mezuzah. This is why this is a specific rule by a Sefer Torah. By mezuzah, you've got a letter missing or whatever it is, that it's possible. You can't fix it. You can't go back and erase and fix something that's possible.
You need someone to write a whole new scroll for you in mezuzah.
Or you can scrape all the way back from the end to that part and then rewrite. Right, that you could do. So if it happens to be a mistake towards the end, you could potentially fix it, but otherwise it's not worth it.
Right? Are you meant to check Sefer Torah on some regular interval?
Yeah.
Do with
like a chazak by mezuzahs we do, but I don't know about Sifrei Torah that we check them on a regular interval. I think that we presume that by reading them, we're checking them.
Yeah.
Right? Since maybe it's built into the cycle that if you're using your Sefer Torah and you're reading it, and otherwise what are you going to use it for? The mezuzah stays rolled up and out of sight and can just sit there. So that's probably why I don't recall ever hearing about it.
You get some shuls where they have a lot of Sefer Torah, so some are not in circulation.
But if they're not in circulation, then you don't have an issue because it's just sitting there and it's not being used, right? It's only a problem if it's being used and it's not kosher.
Should you have your mezuzah checked out more often? Because some people just hold once a year,
twice every 7 years. Twice every 7 years. Yes.
You don't get to see.
We did, except for my fault. Right? What happened was you have two, and Rabbi Giskelson was switching off one year, one the other year. And then what happened was because I was leaning mincha, so one Sefer Torah matches the tikkun perfectly, and the other Sefer Torah is not matching the tikkun. It's much easier to prepare when the Sefer Torah matches the tikkun. So therefore, when we got around past the first cycle and we went to the other Sefer, I said, is it okay if we switch back to the other one? And Rabbi Gisselson was nice. And we switched back to the other one.
No, it's not your fault. Not your fault.
So I will say...
It's not your fault.
Two primary Sefer Torah that we do try to utilize, somewhat equally. We try.
So therefore, if it's going through using it's easier for the Baal Koreh. When is easier?
No, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's the...
Thank you.
So much
for the pardon.
Who wrote it.
No, it's his fault. He wrote a Sefer Kosher Sefer Torah.
It happens.
The newer Sifrei Torah, almost all the newer Sifrei Torah that I see are aligned with the Tikkun. Right?
It's like standardized.
It's pretty standard, which it does not have to be. And I remember growing up, that was not always the case. You'd like hit or miss, and I would love to get a Sefer Torah that was like the Tikkun, but it was much harder to prepare. But now, most of the Sefer Torah match the Tikkun pretty well. So
And you can double check it through AI as well.
you could, they have scanners. Sofrim have scanners that you can check Sefer Torah with a scanner.
Wow.
Yeah. So and mezuzahs and things, they'll actually check one scanner.
So those all through AI.
I don't know that. I knew that they used scanners before there was real AI. So,
Wow.
Igra Chamuha de Rabbi Abba. So Igra, again, this is like father-in-law, right? With a lot of father-in-laws in the sugyas here, right? Havale Yeseros B'Sifrei. He had extra letters in his Sefer Torah. Also, coming to Rabbi Abba, he came before Rabbi Abba. Omar Lei, he said, Lo Amran El B'Chaseros. The problem is only if you've got letters missing. Extra letters is not a problem. Go ahead and fix it. Aval Yeseros Leis Lambaf. If you've got extra letters, not a problem. Lamed Amud Aleph. Idach the Amar Rav. So the other statement that Rav said that we didn't hold by is that it says Amar Rav. Rav says Hakosef Sefer Torah Ubalig Mor. If you have a Sefer Torah and you're coming to the end, right? You have the last pasuk there. So then Gomer Vafilu Be'emtza Hadaf. You could just finish it even if you're in the middle of the column, right? What happens? You just run out. You run out of words. Right? So usually our Sifrei Torah are very nice. They come to the end of the column and it ends Asher Asa Moshe Le'nei Kol Yisrael at the very end, and it fits right in the end, right? But what if he got there and he got halfway done? He's ran out of words. So he says, just finish. Daf means column, yes.
So Daf Yomi, we use the column of the day.
Well, this column, but Daf means a page and a column, yeah. So, Meisvei. So he asked, here's the Brisa question. Hakosif Sefer Torah, somebody's writing a Sefer Torah, Bolo Ligmor, and he has to get to the end of the Sefer. Lo Yigmor Be'emtza Daf. Don't finish it in the middle. Kederach Shegomer Be'chumashim, like we do by the Chumashim, right? Which, Ella Mikatzer V'holech Ad Sof Hadaf. Rather, what you should do is you should get narrower and narrower until you get to the bottom of the page. And Rashi has this example of what he means on the side. You see where he's writing a line and then he realizes he's running out, so he should write a little smaller, a little less on line, a little less, and so that way he gets to the bottom of the page and he fills it in, right? Write a little bit less and less and less, so you can triangle down to the bottom.
Look at your tornado blueprint.
Right? And I've never seen it. Right? Never seen it.
I understood that it was very much like a fixed sort of setting that,
as we see, that you copy it from another Sefer Torah.
Right.
So therefore, if you're copying from another one, once they got good at it, once they had one that worked, then you're going to use the one that you're going to copy from all the time. So from are always just they're copying from one to the other. So therefore, that's yep. So Omar Rav. So the answer is, well, maybe when Rav said that you can finish in the middle, bechumoshin. Maybe he was talking about when you're writing a chumash, right? When you're writing, like they didn't have published books. So let's say you wanted a Bereshis or you wanted a Shmos, then you can write a Sefer Bereshis. Not a whole Sefer Torah, you just have your Sefer Bereshis. So that's what he meant you could finish in the middle. The Hall Sefer Torah Kamar, but he says, no, in a Sefer Torah. That's what Rav said, he said a Sefer Torah. So he says, Bechumashin shel Sefer Torah. What he meant is, when you're finishing the Chumash in the Sefer Torah, when you finish Bereshis, it doesn't have to be at the bottom of the line. Right? I didn't bring my tikkun back. But you could finish Bereshis and then skip a line. Yeah, skip a line and then continue right underneath and then continue on the same column. You don't have to start a new column with Shmos, so you don't do that, right? You can start, you skip a space, but you don't, that's it. Okay. Ini, is that true? V'ha'amar Rabbi Yeshua bar Abba Amar Rav Gidol Amar Rav. Didn't Rabbi Yeshua bar Abba say in the name of Rav Gidol, who said in the name of Rav, Le'enei Kol Yisrael be'emtza daf? You can finish with Le'enei Kol Yisrael in the middle of it. Le'enei Kol Yisrael is the end of Dvarim. That's the only one. So he be'emtza shita. No, he meant that you could finish Le'enei Kol Yisrael at the middle of the line. Meaning you get to the very last line of the column, you don't have to finish and have it justified either side. Is that a tikkun? It is a tikkun. Okay, so let's get to the end of a sefer, for example. Okay, so here, even as they do it right here, right? They finish Bereshis, right? And then they start Shmos. right? Same column, no problem, right? But when we get to the end, this is a very extensive tikkun here, this one. Got
All this taken in here.
Go back a few years. The original Kahal Yereim, hands out.
I can tell.
Yep.
right. This is actually very interesting how they finish it. Look, bottom of the column, middle of the line, just like we said, right? Doesn't have to be to the end,
Yeah.
right? That's very interesting. Okay. Itmar, it has been said, Rabbanan Amri, the Rabbanan said, Af be'emtza shita, you can finish Leinei Kol Yisrael in the middle of the line. You don't have to get justified to the end. Rav Ashi Amarashi says, be'emtza shita davka. He says, Rav Ashi says, you actually should finish it in the middle, just like it says there, right? That's what you're supposed to do. V'hilchus be'emtza shita davka. And no, meaning, I don't think he says you're supposed to. He says that, he says that you can even, he says, Rabbanan are saying that you can even finish it in the middle of a line, meaning in the middle of a column and even in the middle of the line, to which Rav Ashi corrects him and says, no, you can only finish it in the middle of the line, not in the middle of a column. You have to get to the bottom of the page, but you can finish it in the middle of the line, and the hilchos of the halacha is, be'emtza shita davka. You can't finish it in the middle of a column, but you can finish it in the middle of the line. You don't have to go all the way justified to the end.
So it should go to the last
line.
Final part should go all the way to the bottom.
Yep,
So everything-
that's correct. The last parsha Dvarim's got to go all the way to the bottom, but you don't have to finish to the end of the line, right? Leinei Kol Yisrael could be finished in the middle, like just like it is there. Amar Rabbi Yeshua bar Abba, Amar Rav Gidol, Amar Rav. So Rabbi Yeshua bar Abba says in the name of Rav Gidol, in the name of Rav, Shmona psukim sheba Torah, Yachid Koreosan, that the last 8 psukim in the Torah, a yachid, an individual, reads them. The Beis HaKnesses at Shul. What does that mean? An individual reads them. So this is many mefarshim different answers to it. One is that you call up an individual, a special person, right? Call the Rav up. It's called when we do it on Simchas Torah. It's Chasan Torah. Right? So Chasan Torah, so the person who reads the last 8 psukim of the Torah should be a special person who gets called up, right? That's one answer. Also, another explanation is that on Simchas Torah, we repeat and we read over and over and over the parsha. You don't reread the last section over and over and over. That one you read Yachid, you read only once. So that's another explanation.
There's
also bracha. You read Vizos bracha. That's correct, but not the last part. The last part only once, right? Another one, interesting, the Rambam seems to imply you don't need a minyan to read it. Yachid, that you could say without a minyan. It's a question how the Rambam is holding and why he says that. But, okay. But in any event, for all those different things that an individual can read it,
Of course, he has to be. Of course, he can't be underage. He has to be 13 and over.
okay, so now, Keman. So who is this like? It's Delo Rabbi Shimon. It's not like Rabbi Shimon. The Tanya's, we learn in a brisa. Pasuk says, Vayamas Sham Moshe Eved Hashem. The last 8 psukim, it says Moshe died over there. Efshar Moshe Chai V'Kosa Vayamas Sham Moshe. This is also written in Maseches Bava Basra, but we started afterwards. So, is it possible that Moshe was alive and he wrote and Moshe died? When Moshe's going to write something that's not true in the Torah, how's he supposed to write that? So, Ella Adkan Kosav Moshe Mikan Ve'elach Kosav Yehoshua bin Nun. The answer is Moshe wrote the Sefer Torah up until that part. Yehoshua took over and he wrote the last 8 psukim of the Torah. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda says. Ve'amri lo Rabbi Nechemya. And some say that's Rabbi Nechemya's view. Amar lo Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon says, After Sefer Torah chaser os achas. How is it possible Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Sefer Torah and Uksiv, the pasuk says, Lakoach has Sefer Torah zeh. Moshe Rabbeinu says, here, take this Torah. If it was missing the last 8 psukim, how is it a Sefer Torah? It's not a Sefer Torah. Clearly, Moshe Rabbeinu Sefer Torah had everything. V'samtem also, you should put it by the Aron. Moshe Rabbeinu finished his Torah before those 8 psukim. So, Ella, so says Rabbi Shimon, the Sefer Torah that Moshe had was 100%, right? Nothing special about these last 8 psukim. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote them. Ella ad kana kodesh baruch hu omer u'Moshe omer v'kosev. Rather, what happens is Hashem dictated the Sefer Torah up, and Moshe would then repeat it and write it. Mikan ve'elach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omer u'Moshe kosev b'dema. And then afterwards, Hashem would dictate it, and Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it in tears. So he didn't say it out loud, right? Because he was so upset, he just cried, and as he was doing it, he didn't say it out loud, and therefore Moshe didn't imbue those last 8 psukim with the kedusha that he otherwise imbued all of the rest of the letters. When you write a Sefer Torah, the sofer is supposed to recite. Okay, good. That's why it's pretty important to go to to be able to write, because then you can fulfill the mitzvah of writing a Sefer Torah, even if you fix just one letter. Okay. So, next, Simon is Golam, right? Eglam, right? That's where we changed the samach to an ayin, Eglam. So, Tana Rabban rabbis learned. Next thing to know about Sefer Torah. Ose Adam Yeria mi beis shalosh dapin. When you get a sheet of parchment, right? The sheet of parchment should be no less than 3 columns. Should be able to write 3 columns. The ad bas shmona dapin, up until 8 columns, right? Should be between 3 and 8 columns every sheet. Pachus mikan v'yeser al kain lo ya'aseh. If it's less than that or more than that, you should not do it. Now, what does it mean if you should not? Does it mean it's puzzle if you don't? So most of these cases where the Gemara mentions that it should not be done seems to imply that because we have a mitzvah of beautifying the Sefer Torah, that it could be kosher, but it's not the right way to write it. So therefore, this is the proper procedure. Columns, each sheet should have between 3 and 8 columns.
Is that standard now?
Let's see, I would presume everything seems like we standardize things, right? It's much easier to produce these things. The animals that we get are higher quality, right? You presume that they had parchment from whatever size animals they could get their hands on, right?
Maybe more like leather reused for the store.
Well, parchment is leather, yep. V'lo yarbe bedapin, and you should not have more than 8 in the parchment, mipnei nira igeris, because then don't write the columns too skinny. Right? Don't make many skinny columns in the Torah, because then it looks like you're writing a letter. Doesn't look like you're writing significant columns. You write too small. Don't make too few columns and write very wide columns, right? Because mipnei she'einav mishotet, it's very hard to read that Torah, right? Because you got to go back to the line, and if you're going over it all the way back to here, right, you start to lose your place. So that's not good. Ella kigon lemishbechoseichem shalosh pamim. The width of the column should be the amount of space it takes to write lemishbechoseichem 3 times. That's 10 letters. Mishbechoseichem is 30 letters. So about 30 letter wide, and it's got a combination. Why not just write 30 letters? The answer is because which 30 letters, right? You've got to have a combination of wide letters and skinny letters like vavs and yuds and wide letters, right? So that's why that's why it uses a word.
Interesting that in the Gemara it's written also. It takes up 1 line. 3 times.
Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, that is interesting, right? That's interesting how that fits. Yeah, it seems to be intentional, right? And who was it that said it? I want to say that it came from Rav Chaim Kanievsky, who comments that this is the longest word in the Torah. So it happens to be that. But I think it's spelled in the Torah without a yud when it's brought down. But I'm not sure. Okay. So anyway, but we spell with the yud. That's the width that we're aiming for. Nizdamna lo yiria bas teisha dapim. If you get a wide one that's 9 wide. So what do you do? Lo yachlok sholosh lekan v'sheish lekan. Don't split it 3 and 6, right? Ela arba lekan v'chamesh lekan. Split it more evenly, right? Better to make it spread out 4 and 5. That's the way to do it. B'med dvar mamurim. When is that? B'tchilas hasefer. This all is when we're talking about the beginning of the sefer, all the way through, right? All the way into the middle. Aval b'sof hasefer. When you get to the end of the sefer Torah, afilu pasuk echad. Even if you can write one pasuk on the whole column, right? Basically, you have one column left, and you've got this whole thing to go. You can spread out a little bit, right? Afilu daf echad, and even if you've got 1 column. Pasuk echad salka daitach. What do you mean you've got 1 pasuk left? How are you gonna have 1 pasuk? Ela ema pasuk echad b'daf echad. Meaning that all you've got is 1 pasuk left, and you've got to write a column with 1 pasuk. You're gonna write a very skinny column all the way down, right? So that's how you.
Good luck reading it.
And even though you've got this nice wide sheet, that's okay. That's fine, right? That's not going to be a problem. You can't say, "Oh no, this whole Sefer Torah," and I got to the end and You could still use it. Okay. Shir Gilyon Milmata, the amount of space that you have to have on the bottom of the Sefer Torah. You have to leave a little bit of a margin on the bottom, right? And that has to be a tefach, and that has to be one tefach, fist's distance, and milmala from the top is shalosh etzbos, 3 fingers breadth, right? So that's 3 fingers versus a whole hand. Ubein daf ledaf, the amount of space that you need between columns is kimol revach rochav shtei etzbos, the width of 2 fingers. Right, that's the amount of space between columns. Ubechumoshin, the amount of space, what we saw in the tikkun, the amount of space that you need to leave between one sefer and the next one is milmata. Below it is shalosh etzbos, 3 fingers. Milmala shtei etzbos. I'm sorry, the chumash, that's not the end of the sefer. This time, if you're writing a non-sefer Torah, you're just writing a chumash. So you're writing a chumash. So there, it doesn't have the kedusha of sefer Torah. So now it's important for the practice to be able to protect the sefer, but it's not like you're not going to read it in shul and such. So for a chumash, milmata on below is shalosh etzbos. You only need 3 fingers, but that's milmala above. Shtei etzbos is 2. Ubein daf ledaf, and between each column is kamil revach rochav gudel, your thumb. Right. So that's how much space. So you can, be more efficient because it's a chumash.
Very fascinating. The formality,
right, the detail.
The typesetting is very.
Yes, correct. Ubein shita l'shita, and the amount of space that you have to have between each line is kimlo shita, is a line's width. And you see that the Sofrim are writing, they draw a little, what's called sirtut, which is they put a crease across, right? So you basically they're writing on every other line, right? So, yes. So you got like your line like this, right? Right? And the reason for that is, so I'll write my resh over here, and then my aleph over here, and then when I go down here, then I write down the next line, right? Over here, my bays, right? And the reason for that is because then when I want to write my lamed, right, my lamed has to come over there, and then my nun has to come over there. So therefore, you say, wait a second, there's no space in between. The answer is, sure there is. You just hard to see it because there are letters that go above the line and below the line, and it looks pretty much closer, right? So, right, if you grab a look at a tikkun, you can start to see it, right? So. Right. So you've got a space in between, double spaced.
So those are creases they put?
Yes.
I was
Actually make
pencil.
Yeah, no, actually take like a non-sharp knife and draw the little creases across.
But there's still something.
Something out of ruler.
This is great. Wow. Okay, next.
I'm picturing having Clippy at the top corner format your Torah.
That's right. That's right. I see you're writing a Torah. Can I help you? Okay. And so now, bein teva l'teva, between the words, you need kamila os katana, you need a space of a small letter, right? Like for example, a vav or a yud. That's the space in between the letters. Ubein os laos, between the words, kimlo chut ha sar. Between the letters, you need kimlo chut ha sar. You need a hair's breadth, right? Because we said that the letters have to be surrounded by parchment on all sides, but it's as close as you can make it without touching. Im yemoid odom es haksav. If a person writes the text small, so lo mipnei revach shel mata v'lo mipnei revach shel mala, he
Is it al
sorry, what did I say? Oh, sorry. Al yemoid odom es haksav. Right, you shouldn't make squeeze the letters together and make them smaller. Lo mipnei revach shel mata v'lo mipnei revach shel mala, in order to be able to make sure that you've got the proper space in the margin down below or above. V'lo mipnei revach shebein shita l'shita, and not to be able to make sure you've got enough space between the lines. V'lo mipnei revach shebein parsha l'parsha, or to make sure you've got enough space between the parshios, the sections, right? You're not supposed to squish things together. Right, in Parsha, there's 2 types of Parshios when we talk about in the Tikkun, right? We've got Parshos Stumos and Parshos Psuchos. Psucha ends, and then you've got open space till the end, that's the Psucha, and a Stuma is here, where it ends space, and then continues on the next line, right? So you're worried, I'm going to wind up with not enough, so I'll squeeze. Don't make your letters smaller in order to be able to. That's not a good way to write your Sefer Torah, right? If you do it, it's kosher. How do we know? Because Moshe Rabbeinu himself did it, right? In Vayikra, Moshe Rabbeinu makes a little small aleph because he's humble and he doesn't want to write Vayikra. Hashem called to him. He says, no, Vayikar, I happen to be around, right? But Moshe Rabbeinu wrote small, and the Sefer Torah is kosher. We do that. We have that custom. We do it ourselves, right? But so it's kosher, but not ideal to start writing in. You should keep the font size consistent. Nizdamna lo teva bas chamesh osios. Let's say he gets to the end of a line and he's got 5 letters, a word of 5 letters. Lo yichtov shtayim b'toch hadaf v'sholosh chutz l'daf. He shouldn't try to make it so that 2 letters fit in the column and then 3 letters go into the space. Right? Ella, what is he going to do? Sholosh b'toch hadaf v'shtayim chutz l'daf. He should try to get 3 letters into the column, and if 2 have to stick out, then 2 can stick out. Right? So, right, we don't have Sifrei Torah that have that issue. Again, because our Sofrim are copying off of something, right? But theoretically, a Sofrim can get to the end of the line and he can get a couple of letters sticking out. Nizdamna lo teva bas shtei osios. Let's say he's got a word that has 2 letters left. Lo yizrakena lebein hadapin. Don't put that. You said we can put 2 letters in the column. No, not if the word is 2 letters. If the word is 2 letters, go to the next. Ela chozer v'kosev b'tchila. Then go down and write it on the next line. Right? There's no reason for you to do that. Hatoa b'shem. Okay, now you make a mistake and you forgot to write one of the names of Hashem in the Sefer Torah. Gorer es Moshe Kasav. So he's got to wait till it dries, and then you scrape off what you wrote. V'tola es Mashe Gorar. And what you should do is, remember, the whole Sefer Torah is written. So you've got a name of Hashem missing. So scrape off the word that is where before is the one that the next word, and what you should do is write Hashem's name into that space and write the word that you erased above it. Don't push Hashem's name out of the picture. Push the other word out of the picture and rewrite Hashem's name. Because of Hashem al makom hagrar, right? Write Hashem's name where you scraped and then put the other word above it. Right? Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's what Rabbi Yehuda says to do. Rabbi Yossi says, Af tolan es Hashem. No, you could just put the Hashem's name into the up above, right, between the rows. Rabbi Yitzchak says, "Af mochek v'kosev." He says you should erase the previous word and write the name of Hashem on that. Second, Hashem. You should even erase it, but before the ink dries, and rewrite where it's supposed to be. Even though, if you do that, it's going to be smudged, right? If you let the ink dry, as Yehuda was asking, if you let the ink dry, then you can scrape it off. But if you try to erase it, wipe it off while the ink's not dry, so then it's going to smudge. He says even that's okay.
Does it become puzzle?
No, that's what we're saying. Even if it's smudged, you can just wipe it off and then you can rewrite it. Rabbi Shimon Shazuri, Rabbi Shimon Shazuri says, Kol Hashem Kulo Tolin, Miktzoso Ein Tolin. If you have to rewrite the name of Hashem, you can put the whole thing up there. But if you've got one letter from Hashem's name that's missing, that you shouldn't put up there. You don't write Hashem's name with one letter sticking up above. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Shimon says, Mishum, Rabbi Meir, and then Rabbi Meir, in Kos V'Nash Hashem, Lo Al-Makom Hagrar, V'Lo Al-Makom HaMachak. You're not supposed to write Hashem's name on the place where you scraped it, or on a place where it was erased. Vein Tolin Oso, and you're not supposed to put it into the space in between. Ketzad Oso, so what do? Misalik es hayaria kula v'gonza. You got to take out the entire sheet. Wow. Rewrite the whole, like you've got 5 columns there, 6 columns. Take the sheet out that has the mistake on it and just rewrite that section and put it and replace it.
Mm-hmm. That's going to take hours.
That's what Rabbi means. Yes, it will. Uh-huh. Yep. Itmar. So it said in the base measure. Rav Chanan el Omar Rav. Rav Chanan says the name of Rav. Halacha. The halacha is tolin as Hashem. You're allowed to write Hashem's name into the space in between. Rabba bar Bar Chana Omar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Shmuel. Halacha mochek. The halacha is that you should erase it and v'kosev and rewrite it. V'lema mar halacha kemar halacha mar. Why did you say one says the halacha is this way, one says the halacha is this way? Why didn't you just say the halacha is like the opinions we said, right? Like the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon Shazuri, like we said before. And the answer is mishum da'abchilu, because we got confused who said which one, right? We didn't remember whose opinion was which one. Now let's get sidetracked for a moment, okay? And we're going to take a tour through all of Shas. Right, we're going to stop off in Maseches Roim. We're going to stop off in Maseches Taharos. We're going to stop off a little bit here, a little bit there. So this is nice, little quick review of all Gemaras. Amar Rabin Bar Chanina, Amar Ula. Rabin Bar Chanina says in the name of Ula. Amar Reb Chanina in the name of Reb Chanina. Halacha ki Reb Shimon Shazuri. The halacha here is like Reb Shimon Shazuri. Right? That could have been the issue, is that we weren't sure which opinion Reb Shimon Shazuri held. Reb Shimon Shazuri that we have, it says that you can put the entire name of Hashem up above, but not just one of the letters. So Aheya. So now, when Rabin Bar Chanina said the name of Ula, he said that the halacha is like Reb Shimon Shazuri. So he said, not only that, Reb Shimon Shazuri halacha. Whenever you see Reb Shimon Shazuri, the halacha is always like Reb Shimon Shazuri. That's a pretty bold statement. When did we make that statement? If we made that statement here, so that's not, you can't be, because Reb Shimon Shazuri says, Kol Hashem Kulo Tolin. Here we're saying that the whole name of Hashem could go into the line, the space between the lines, Miktaso Ein Tolin, but not part of the name of Hashem. The Itmarala, we already said, Amar Reb Chanana, Amar Rav, that Reb Chanana said in Rav, Halacha, the halacha is Tolin as Hashem. You're allowed to put the line, the name of Hashem in between. The Rabbi Barchana, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Shmuel, halacha, the halacha is mochek v'kosiv. You can erase it and rewrite it. Ve'im Isa, if this was the place where you were holding like Reb Shimon Shazuri, so hunami lema. So he should have said here also. And there's a third view, which is that the halacha is always like Reb Shimon Shazuri, but he doesn't say that. So therefore, he didn't say it here, right? So Reb Chananel is not. Right, so therefore he's not. This statement is not. This is not like Reb Shimon. This is not where he said it. So rather Ella. So So we're going to go through Shas. We're going to try to find a bunch of statements that Reb Shimon Shazuri says about a bunch of different things, and then we're going to try to see if that's the case where we say the halacha is like Reb Shimon Shazuri. Now the halacha is always going to be like Reb Shimon Shazuri because that's what we said at the end. But it's always like Shimon Shazuri. We're just trying to figure out if that's the place where the statement was made. So let's say about this case. This is in Maseches Chulin. We are going to get there soon. Reb Shimon Shazuri says, "Afilu ben chamesh shanim v'choresh basodeh shchitas imo mitaharto." He says that if you have what's called what we're going to learn called a ben pakua. A ben pakua is an animal that's mother was shechted while it was pregnant with it, and then after the animal, the mother is shechted. Then there's a baby inside, so you do a C-section, take the baby out. And here this animal gets up, it's walked around.
It comes out alive, right?
It comes out alive. So this animal is considered already shechted.
Even the baby?
The baby's already shechted because it was part of the mother when the mother was shechted.
Even though it's fully alive,
walking around, which means you could just take a bite out of it. Right? Only we don't because of Maras Ayin. Right? Midirabanan you can't. But Reb Shimon Shazuri says, now, even if this animal is 5 years old and it's busy plowing in the field, right? It's a fully grown animal, shchitas imo mitar to, the shchita of the mother fulfills the requirement for shchita. So theoretically, right, somebody comes along, shoots the animal with an arrow or goes hunting, whatever, you can eat it. It's kosher because it already had shchita.
Or shoot with the rifle.
Right? The animal drops dead. It's a sick, it's kosher. Right? Ha'itmar Allah.
Get an asha of that animal?
No, because the gitanasha is still a problem, right? That has nothing to do with shchita. Right? Even a kosher shechted animal, you can't eat the gitanasha. Right? Ha'itmar Allah, and we had said about it, Ze'iri Amar Rabbi Chanina. We said about that Ze'iri said the name of Rabbi Chanina, halacha Reb Shimon Shazuri. The halacha is like Shimon Shazuri. Now, Ve'im Isa, if this is the place where Rabin Bar Chanina said in the name of Rabbi Chanina that all the halachas are always like it, so then hunami lema. He would have said that here. He didn't say it. The statement that we're quoting is the halachas like Reb Shimon Shazuri. Obviously, that's not the location where we made the statement that the halachas is always like Reb Shimon Shazuri. So Ela Aha. Let's try again. Let's move on to Maseches Gittin. Let's talk about Gittin. Berishona hayu omrim hayotzi bekolar. Right? We used to at first we said that if somebody is going out to be executed. And he says that I want you to write a get to my wife. That's what he tells somebody. Do me a favor, because I don't want her to have to go through Yibam. Write a get to my wife. The Omar kisfu get lishti. Harei elu yichtivu v'yitnu. Now, he didn't give the command to give her the get. Generally speaking, if a guy says, I would like you to write a get to my wife, that doesn't mean give it. That just means write it. But this guy, he's going out to be executed. So when he says write it, he means give it. And so you're supposed to give it, because we assume that he's a little bit distracted and that's why he didn't say it. So
But if the wife gives you a get, don't you and her have to sign it?
she is not signing a get. No, this is when the husband writes the get, and he can assign it to a person to write it on his behalf. Chazru lomar af hamefaresh. So too, they said not only that, but it's also true if a person is leaving on a boat trip, vayotzi b'sheyara, or he's going out to a caravan trip, and he says, "Write a get to my wife," that it means that he also means to write it and give it. Rabbi Shimon Shazuri Omer. Rabbi Shimon Shazuri says, "Af hamesukon," even somebody who is sick, dangerously ill. If he says write it, it means to give it.
You mean like on their deathbed or whatever?
Yes. Inami, so okay. Or so then the answer we say, no, Rabbi Shimon Shazuri, Rabbi Shimon says, or here's another potential case of Rabbi Shimon Shazuri. Maybe it's in this case, this is in Mesechus Demai. Now we're in Seder Zroyim. Demai. Trumas Maser Shel Demai, right? Let's say you've got Trumas Meiser that comes from Demai. Demai is produce that was purchased from an Am Haaretz. Right, he's a non-scholarly person, and they were not careful to take off Trumas and Maisros. So we don't know, but he might have. We don't know what the status here of this crop is. So he's got Trumas Meiser of Demai, Shechazro Lim Koma. He drops this Trumas Meiser into the original pile again. So now it's all mixed up, right? Mi de'oraisa is batal. Right, because we have batal berov is general midoraisa. However, we have a problem midarabanan. It's not, because we said there are certain categories of things that rabbinically are not nullified, and this one is not going to be nullified because we have it is a right. It says not 100 to offset it to make it batal in the capacity. So there's going to be a big loss. And so now what are we supposed to do? Rabbi Shimon Shazuri Yomer, Rabbi Shimon says, Af bechol shoalo ve'ochlo al piv. So what he should do is, since there's a circumstance here where there's going to be a big loss, you can go back to the Am Haaretz and you can ask him, even if it's during the week, right? During Shabbos, right? So, maybe, right, you can't take it off. So you can ask him, did you take it off? Now, even though normally we are not going to trust him, we can say that we were lenient here because of the great loss, and allow him to ask if Trumas Meisters were if it was taken off. So now, V'ha'id marala, on these cases, right, about the get to the woman and also the Trumas Meiser of Demai, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Halacha Rabbi Shimon Shazuri b'mesukan ubetrumas meiser shel Demai. The halacha is like Rabbi Shimon Shazuri in the case of where he says somebody's dangerously ill and somebody who takes this trumas meiser and mixes it back up. And v'imisa, if it's true that we said about Rabbi Shimon Shazuri that the halacha is always like Rabbi Shimon Shazuri, why didn't we mention it here? Hunami lema, he would say it here. Obviously, this is not the place where he said it. Ella aha. Let's try again. Let's find another place where we have Rabbi Shimon Shazuri. Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar Omer. This is we learn in a brisa. Rabbi Yossi ben Kippar says, Mishum Rabbi Shimon Shazuri, in the name of Rabbi Shimon Shazuri, Pul HaMitzri, the Egyptian bean, which is planted sometimes that they would plant it for a to be able to be eaten as a vegetable. Meaning, I guess it's sprouted and the stem or the leaves could be eaten as a vegetable. Shazar Ulazar, but this person grew it with the intent of growing more beans, so he had more seeds. So now the distinction is that when it comes to vegetables, trumas and maestros are taken off of vegetables based on when they are harvested, and beans and legumes are based on when their roots take root. So it's a different. Going to be depending on what his intent was for this crop. Yes. So good pun. So this is what happens is so miktsaso hishrish lifnei Rosh Hashanah, or miktsaso achar Rosh Hashanah. Some of it took root before Rosh Hashanah of one year, and some after the Rosh Hashanah. So now, because he intended to use it as a legume, he says, Ein Tormin Mizeh al Zeh, you can't take Truma for the part that grew before Rosh Hashanah, for the part that took root before Rosh Hashanah, on the part that took root after Rosh Hashanah, Lefi, She'ein Tormin U'Ma'asrein, Lo Min HaChodesh Al Yoshan, V'Lo Min Al Yoshan Al Chodesh. You have to take produce from last year's produce on last year's stuff, and the new one on the new stuff. So therefore, part of the beans that he planted, some of them took root. That's last year's crop. The other stuff that came later is this year's crop, despite the fact that he harvested it all after Rosh Hashanah, because it's not a vegetable, it's a legume. Ketzad Ya'aseh, so what should he do? Sover grono litocho. So now he's got it mixed up. So what is he going to do? He should take his harvest and he should mix it up right after Rosh Hashanah. And now, when he takes truma from the amount that he scoops up, he can presume he's got a mixture. He's got a mixture of the old stuff, a mixture of the new stuff. So therefore, since everything's all mixed up, he's good. Okay. Ha'idmar Allah. And on that statement, Amar Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Reb Yochanan, Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani said to Reb Yochanan, halacha ke Reb Shimon Shazuri, the halacha is Reb Shimon Shazuri. But he doesn't say the halacha is always like Reb Shimon Shazuri. V'imisa hunami lema. Let him say also that the halacha is always like Reb Shimon Shazuri. Doesn't say it there. Ella Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says from here, Ashida. We're going to talk about the halacha of a box. Rabbi Nachman says it's ayayin, it's about the case of the wine. So let's talk about that. Rav Papa says, Ashida, what's the case of the box? Ditnan, we learned in a Mishnah. Now we're in Maseches Kalim. We're already at the end of Shas now, at the Maseches Taharos Kalim. Hashida, the box, if you've got a box for making a closet of some kind. So Beishamai, so now you're going to be able to decide, right, if it can be makabel tuma or not, and it's going to depend on its size. If it's able to hold 2 kor of dry measure, so then it's too large to be a movable utensil, and then it becomes a stationary one, and it can't receive tuma. So when you are going to measure it, Beishamai omrim nimdedes mi bafnim. Right, you have to measure the interior of the utensil. You don't measure the exterior of the utensil. The thickness of the walls don't count. Beis Hillel Omer mi bachutz. Beis Hillel says no. You can measure from the outside, which means you can include the volume of the walls of the utensil as well. And umodim elu ve'elu, both of them agree. She'ein ove haraglayim ve'ove ha-lebazbezin. Right, but everyone agrees that as far as the legs of this container that extend downward, and also the any kind of a external kind of a decoration that's around the outside, that doesn't count. No, he says nimdad, right? So it's not measured, right? And therefore it doesn't continue into it doesn't get counted into the dry measure. Rabbi Yossi says modim shover aglayim vove ha levaz bezin nimdad. No, they agree that it is counted, right? Ubei nehen aim nimdad, but the space between the legs is not, right? Imagine that you've got this tripod or whatever of legs, so then the legs themselves can be measured, but not the space in between. And Rabbi Shimon Shazuri says, Im hayu raglaim govos tefach, if the space between, if they were kept the box off the ground at tefach, then it's its own space underneath. Then ein beinehem nindad, then the space between is not counted. Beim lav, but if not, it's still close to the ground. Beinehem nimdad, then even the space to the ground is counted. So he says that. And Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar Ayai, and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, T'tnan, we're in Mishnah, Rabbi Meir Omer Meir says, Shemen tchila li olam. The rule by Tuma is that if you have a food, we always go downward. Ava Tuma goes to a Rishon. We learned the exception to that by Zav. We talked about that a couple of days ago, right? We've got a Rishon, Ava Tuma goes to a Rishon touches a Sheni touches a Shlishi. However, that's when something becomes wet. Then the Tuma can transfer. Liquids are always wet, so they're easy to transmit Tuma. Therefore, the Rabbanan said, Mida Rabbanan, a liquid is always a Rishon. So therefore, the rule is it's always a Rishon. Rabbi Meir says, Shemen tchila liolam, oil is always a Rishon. Now, Tosfos points out that, of course it is, but he says, we're talking about dried up oil. It's not even in its liquid state, but he says oil, nevertheless, is in a liquid state. The Chacham says, Af hadvash, even honey, which is thicker, that's still a liquid. And it's considered Rishon Latuma. And Rabbi Shimon Shazuri, Rabbi Shimon says, Af hayayin, even wine. We called the Tanakava Savar Yain Lo. What do you mean? The Tanakama says wine is not. Wine is the thinnest of all of them. So Ema Reb Shimon Shazuri Omer Yayin. Reb Shimon Shazuri says no. He means only wine. And so that's where we had said on one of these 2 points, somebody made the comment, the halacha is always like Shimon Shazuri. And so that's where we make the statement. We're going to do one more statement of Shimon Shazuri related to a nice story tomorrow. So we'll stop here. Daf Lamed Aleph, which is today's daf, right?
Is it really? Lamed Aleph?
All right.
Today is Lamed Aleph, right, Yehuda?
Wow, we were working there.
Beautiful.